Should Pete Alonso be a New York Met at all cost? I'm going to give you the reasons why and why not. Now on MetCast. Okay, Met fans. So rumors are swirling around MLB. Juan Soto's meeting with every team in MLB. Pete Alonso is being rumored to a lot of teams throughout MLB. And I saw today earlier that the Yankees even have checked in on him. We know the glaring hole that they have at first base that Anthony Rizzo is going to be, he's going to be departing there as the Yankees declined his option for next year. So Alonso's going to have a lot of suitors. We know this past offseason, the Mets, were rumored to offer Alonso a 6 or 7 year deal around $158 million that obviously him and his agent Scott Boras declined. There was no negotiations after that. I guess Pete Alonso didn't want to negotiate his contract in season. Maybe that's what was on his mind. Maybe that's why he had a down year. But we had a writer over at MetCast Pod, Jason Love, who covered this topic, and he wrote an article titled, are the Mets forced to re-sign Pete Alonso, the case for and the case against? And we'll go over this briefly today, and then we'll get into also Alonso's career numbers, maybe where he projects to in the future and the contract that we're potentially looking at with him, because he is a substantial move. Let's be honest. Steve Cohen said in the offseason he knows the magnitude of the implications that if they did not bring Alonso, what it could bring to this fan base. He's kind of a heart and soul type of player. Yes, Lindor is our captain after all, but Alonso, drafted by the Mets in the second round, came through the ranks, mashed in throughout the minors, led the minors in home runs, came up here, set the rookie record for Mets players, and is well on his way for setting the club record for all-time home runs. And I know that's something that Cohen is also weighing, but at the end of the day, let's take a deep dive right into this article really quick. When we look at free agency, there's a lot of factors just beyond Alonso and what he's done. Now, if this was 15 years ago, I would say it's a no-brainer the Mets are bringing him back. We saw it time and time again with other free agents around the league. But now with new age analytics, a guy like David Stearns, who relies on analytics, a ton of analytics to make his correct decisions, may look at a guy like Alonso and say his better years are behind him, or maybe he only has a year or two left in that prime, because usually guys that are big and bulky like Alonso typically don't age too well. So there's kind of that risk versus reward. Is he going to give you a hometown discount to sign back? Unfortunately, I would probably say no, considering his agent is Scott Boras. Also, the fact that Steve Cohen is the richest owner in baseball. I think any thought of a hometown discount goes, out the door. So Jason initially gets into his article here talking about upward trends, downward trends, baseball, where it's at, kind of like what I was just talking out there, and how GM's job is to, weigh the risk and reward. Is it going to be a long-term contract, 7 years on a 30-year-old first baseman? Maybe he projects to be a Stanton-type DH down in the future, but how many more years can Alonso play a serviceable first base? Also, we got to take into account, and Jason mentions it later on in his article, is Mark Vientos really a third baseman? He doesn't project to be a third baseman in this league. He was okay last year, but as we saw even in the postseason, he doesn't have the best of gloves. He's not the quickest on his feet. He's got an okay arm, but he probably projects to be a more up-type defender at first base. He may be a below-average defender at third base, but he's got a little bit of that quickness that might make him an above-average defender at first. Now, we need to know if he could pick the ball, how his footwork is, but that's something that you could get into in the offseason. So it's all about those returns. Jason continues in his article to talk about the value of Alonso. Will he probably be valuable years 1, 2, and 3, but rumors around MLB is that he's going to be getting somewhere in that $200 million range, which makes me think that maybe it's 8 years. I don't see Alonso as a $30 million a year player, but is there a team out there that would give Alonso 8 years, $25 million a year, and potentially defer some of that money? Looking at a team maybe like Arizona, if they lose their first baseman, Goldschmidt's gone. Maybe the Cardinals look at a player like him. He was rumored for years to go to the Chicago Cubs. Supposedly, they have an affinity for him and his type of player that he is. They got Craig Counsell, big expectations out there coming into this next year. Or maybe even it's the Yankees. If the Yankees end up losing Juan Soto, which Ben Verlander tweeted out just a few minutes ago, and he said it looks like Juan Soto's not going to be returning to the Yankees. And we saw Carlos Gomez also come out with a report stating that he has sources that are close to Juan Soto that say Soto is so diligent on becoming the highest paid player of all time. And that indicates potentially the Yankees will not be signing him, and he links him to the Mets. So do the Yankees potentially, if the Mets end up do landing Soto, or say Soto goes to the Dodgers, for instance, will the Yankees say we have to make a move and potentially give Pete Alonso 27 or $28 million a year? Or maybe, just maybe, hear me out. We saw it with Verlander and Scherzer. Maybe Alonso will be willing to take a 6 or 7 year contract, not that 8 year contract, and make a little bit higher of an AAV. But that's something we all have to monitor as the offseason progresses. I got a feeling once we see these dominoes start to fall, they're going to come crashing down to the floor. As I mentioned earlier, he talks about Vientos in this article as he goes forward. He also talks about Ronnie Mauricio. A lot of Met fans forget about Ronnie. Ronnie projects in the big leagues to be a big league third baseman. He's got the quickness, he's got the arm. If they move Mauricio to third base, excuse me, maybe Vientos shifts over to first base and they feel like they're more athletic in the infield. Maybe, and I've said this to Met fans in the past, just because we have Steve Cohen as an owner does not mean that we're going to have the highest paid player at every single position. You have to have some of this young talent around the diamond. If you're going to sign a Juan Soto, and then don't forget, David Stearns just said at his press conference that we need to acquire a center fielder. I don't want to see Harrison Bader back. I need to see an upgrade out there. So if you're talking potentially a right fielder, a center fielder, maybe you find a team to take McNeil's contract and we go young at third and second and you move Vientos to first. That wouldn't be ideal for me, but remember, we need a lot of starting pitching. Rumors around MLB, Sean Manaea might be looking at 3 years, $60 million. I'm not sure I'm giving that to him. I personally don't think he's worth that. I understand he had a very good second half for us last year, but at age 33, I don't know how he's going to age. Will his velocity tick off? Is that a half a season wonder and we're going to get bit for 3 years on it? That scares the daylights out of me. But what we can keep it going. We could talk about Pete Alonso's career numbers. That's another thing that I wanted to get into. When we talk about Pete Alonso's career numbers, everybody talks, we go right to the home runs, right? That's what we always do. Right to the home runs. So we're looking at him 2019, 2024, 226 home runs. Alonso is clearly on a Hall of Fame pace, even with the down year of 34 home runs last year. And one thing that also scares me with Alonso, in a good way, I don't think he's a pressure type guy. He was waiting for that contract. He knew that contract was potentially coming this offseason. And maybe that got to him. Maybe that's why he had a down year. It's on his mind. I feel like if you're able to somehow re-sign Alonso to a 7 year contract at reasonable number, 7 years, $25 million a year, we might have to eat the last year of that contract, but that's sometimes what happens. And you bring in a guy like Juan Soto to play right field, this lineup then becomes stacked. Vientos is probably only going to get better. Lindor's the captain of his team. I expect a bounce back year from Nimmo. And then maybe you go and take a risk on two guys like a Max Fried and a Corbin Burns, who's been linked to the Mets for forever. Obviously, we all know Corbin Burns is a David Stearns guy from Milwaukee. And there's now rumors around MLB that we're hearing that Crockett might be available from the White Sox for the right price. And I totally expect the Mets to be in on that. This farm system has become a top 5 farm system in no time. And that is thankful very much to the Verlander trade. Clifford has shot up through the ranks Gilbert has shot up through the ranks. Jet Williams is currently the number one prospect. I am not moving him. I'm not moving Brandon Sproat, but we have plenty of guys coming through the ranks. Let me know what you guys think. Should we go all out for Pete Alonso? Is he that secondary type captain? I mean, think about it. Do you want to see him in a Yankees uniform? Because that's the risk. If you're gonna play, be prepared, because we could say, oh, he's going to the Cubs. He's going to Toronto. If Vladdy gets moved or whatever, the Cardinals, Arizona, Seattle, wherever. But you run the risk that he could be across town in the Bronx playing for them for years to come. I personally want him back, but I can't give him an 8-year contract. That's just me. Maybe you're different. Maybe you think, you know what? Screw it. He's going to set the all-time record for Mets home runs. He's going to be a Mets Hall of Famer. He's going to be probably a regular Hall of Famer. He's well on his way to 500 home runs. And if we get more protection in the lineup and a guy like Juan Soto, that could help Alonso take his career to the next level. Let me know what you think down in the comments. We'll follow up with more articles, more videos. Let me know the content that you guys want to see. We love doing this stuff. Follow us at MetCastPod across all platforms. And if you got something you want to tell us, let us know in the DMs. I keep our DMs open. Not many big accounts do that, but we do that because we love hearing from you, the fans. We have a couple special guests, some former New York Mets lined up to come on the pod. You've heard them. You've seen them on SNY, former pitchers. But I'll hold that close to the vest for now. Until next time, let's go Mets. Peace.